Hello and welcome to Pearlie's Design Shop. In this video, I make a cute little journal using strips of fabric to hinge the pages. I tacked down the fabric with glue first and then used my sewing machine to sew the fabric onto the paper. But it could be hand stitched or made with glue only. So let's have a look at the process. So this journal is actually made from mostly Tim Holtz papers that I had used in a previous project. I wasn't too happy with it, so I decided to take it apart and reuse the paper. So I had pieces of paper and I've put them together by stitching each piece together with fabric. So instead of folding papers, you can see I've stitched fabric onto the papers to create that fold. And I've just done it on one side of the papers. And sometimes I used one line of stitching, sometimes two or three, depending on how much fabric overlapped onto the paper. The pages vary in size, and I believe I ended up with about 6 of these sewn pages per signature. This one has very little fabric in between the papers, so I'll have to be very careful when I stitch that one. So I'm going to machine sew the pages of this signature together down that center. So hopefully as centered as I can with my sewing machine, which I also use to sew those pages together. By the way, you can probably see that. So I didn't use any clips to hold the pages together. I just lined them up and then I used my finger to feel for that center fabric area and kind of use that as a guide to sew down the center of the signature. Okay, so I have stitched down the center, but not really the center. It's a little off, but the stitching has gone through all the layers of fabric. So mostly that's what I would be concerned about. On the outside, it's not completely centered, but that's okay. Once I sew the signatures in, that will secure that fabric even more. And here's that page that had very little fabric in the center. It's a little wonky, but that's okay. This journal, I'm not making it to be perfect. I want it to actually be perfectly imperfect. And I finished stitching through the other 2 signatures, more or less down the center, but the stitching has gone through all of the layers of fabric. And this is the other one. Again, looks good, looks pretty good down the back. I thought for the cover I would use this piece of file folder that I dyed with acrylic ink and a piece of Tim Holtz paper with some roughly torn edges. So I just machine stitched that Tim Holtz paper to the file folder, so just some messy stitching around the edges. I think that is going to look okay. Okay, so here's the journal so far. I've got the signature sewn in, and I sewed those right into the cover. And I'm thinking inside of the covers, front and back, I'm just going to make a little pocket, and then I'll make a little notebook, just plain paper to put in there, because there's not a whole lot of writing space or drawing space in this. So, of course, things can be glued in, or, just a plain piece of paper or something you've written on can be, uh, attached in there. But I had decided that I would make a pocket with a plain notebook in the front. So I've taken another couple of pieces of scrap paper, and I'm just going to go to the sewing machine and stitch around there so that there's a pocket. And I'm going to do the same on the back cover. Similar papers, and I'll just stitch around the three sides, and then that whole thing will get glued onto that back page with a pocket. Okay, so I'm back from the sewing machine, and I've attached that pocket. So I'm just going to glue that in. Now, I've decided in the end to just glue it on three sides. So I'm going to glue it across the top, this side, and across the bottom. I'm going to leave this open just as an optional pocket to be used or not, but at least it's there. Okay, so it's glued across the top, down this side, and across the bottom. So we've got a pocket here, which I'll make a little blank notebook to put in. And this side's open for something to be tucked in. Okay, and then on the back side, I'll do the same. So this is the inside of the back cover. And I will, again, I'll glue the top and this side and the bottom. And that will leave this side open for, make sure I do this right, to create another pocket. Okay, so let's have a look at the I pretty much finished journal. I might add a little more to it, but right now it's looking pretty good. So there's the cover. I've got the signatures sewn right into the cover there, three signatures. Now I do have my wad of loose threads that I've saved that I might put over the spine, because otherwise it's a little plain, and it's not, the stitching doesn't look too bad in my opinion, but I may end up doing that. Another option would be to just put some fabric or lace over that spine. Now, I could have put something else on the front here, but sometimes I just think less is better. But like even a little name plaque could go on there, or, but at the same time, if someone else wanted to put something there, there's a spot, like a little photo, or just write some words on there, the name of the book. So inside, I did add that pocket to the front, and I've just done a little, just some scrap paper, It's actually coffee stain paper, and I've attached those together with a piece of scrap fabric, so you could use it as a notebook or you could tear the pages out, and that just sits in there. And then I've left the opening here for an additional pocket. Now I do have lots of bits and pieces that I could, I could add another pocket there or just another scrap of paper for interest. But I think this book has, a fair bit in it. It's a good size. That spine is a good, one and almost 1.5 actually inches, 1.25 to 1.5. So we'll just have a look through, and there is another page with actually 2 pockets here, one there and one there, and I've just added a tag with some, scrap fabric added to it. Now, one thing I want to say, I love this journal. I'm happy with it. I like the feel of it. I like the size. I mean, it could be made smaller as well. I think I'm going to make more for sure. Now, one thing I would do differently is I showed you earlier on that when I was adding the fabric to the pages to make the hinges, I didn't do it to both sides. So here's an example. I didn't add fabric to both sides. I think if I were to do this again, I would add fabric to both sides. It may even make it a little sturdier, but uh, this one isn't too bad. Like, there's not a whole lot of wiggle wobble to it. So, but that's one thing I would do a little differently because I like the look of the fabric stitched onto the page more than I like this, where all you're seeing is the, the thread coming through the other side. So I digress. Let's move on. This pocket I didn't fill, but there is a little pocket in there. Yeah, I think that would look, to me, nicer if it had the same fabric method over top. And this is actually kind of like a belly band. It's a very wide one. So I've just popped a little printed tag in there. I think that's a pocket too. Yeah, it is. So here's 2 pockets that I haven't filled. And I could, obviously, I could tuck something in there for sure, to keep it from being too much more bulky. I would put something fairly thin in there. Oh, another pocket. I'll have to mark those because otherwise they're hard to detect sometimes. Another little one there. Oh, and that just needs a dab of glue along the side. I'll come back later and do that. And then I've just added a little booklet, like an accordion booklet here. And clip that together. This is another pocket here, and I've just put a little journaling card in there. This just folds back Another pocket, another journaling card. I put this page in upside down. Haha. I don't know. Does it matter? Does that bother you? It did bother me at first, and I got over it. So there you go. Another little pocket here, and I've just put a wee card in there. Okay, and then again on the back page, I did the pocket. Another little scrap note paper in there. And then I've left this side open that something else could be tucked in there. And then there's the back. Oh, and there's all of the threads. So there's so many threads along the spine. And of course, that's because when I was sewing the fabric hinges on, I left all the ends. So that's what that is. Now, you could take that and give it a haircut with a pair of scissors if it bothers you. I'm going to leave it for now. I'm not sure about it. Yeah, just looks, you could put an elastic around it, I guess, and make a ponytail out of it. So anyways, that is the journal. I like this method. I think I'm going to make more journals using this. The other thing about this is it did, as I was adding things, it got a little bit open. So I'll probably either make a fabric tie or, you know, add an elastic closing to go over it, something like that, because it could get thicker than that. Mind you, over time they do settle down. So there is my journal make. I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you in the next video. If you've stayed this far, thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.